Back at it once again. Another day, I'm telling you. It's not really that hard, but it is time consuming. So let's take a look at what's going on here. I've gone ahead after I did some, preliminary sanding. I got everything around where I wanted to. And then I started looking at it a little more, and I'm thinking, yeah, this is a little thicker than it should be. This is, so I'm really just kind of fine tuning, and yeah, that's my fine tuning. I do have my carbide bit out again, and what I'm really trying to do is I'm just trying to straighten out these runners. This is actually the second bank. I've already done the other side, and I'm really just trying to take some of this meat out of these, between these two runners here, and I've got out, I know a lot of people like to do, oh, it makes you this, it should be that way all the way through. And mine's close, but there's no way back in there I'm going to be able to get this through, because it's not actually, that's an opening, so that's why it's doing that. But there's, in the runners themselves, they're actually closed up a little more. So the opening now, because of the gasket's actually wider than the actual runner itself, which is great. Because I know the heads are actually matched to those gaskets also, because that's why I use the same exact gaskets in the motors over and over again, so that way they're never any difference, and I can do things like this. But in a nutshell, I've got my carbide bit out again and my Dremel, and I'm just fine tuning everything down and just trying to make it, as flat as possible. And I don't want this to be a lip. So I want it just basically to be flat right off of here, or at least close as possible. And then I have to go back and resand and redo everything again, and then I can start doing the final quote-unquote polishing. As I said, I'm not going to come in here and polish these runners. I mean, this is almost a mirror finish now. I mean, it's geez, what is that? That's 400 grit. I mean, I know people will paint a car in 400 grit, so that's good enough for me, especially with these old intakes. They do have some blemishes that are not going to come out. I mean, you don't see them at first, but as you cut through, you may find a little like tiny air pocket or something, and then you get a pock mark. You can do what you can, but I'm not going to. I mean, this is, like I said, I've waited for this intake for over 6 years. I'm not going to take a risk and try to cut through it. I know it can be fixed, but again, why do it? I just want it to be as good as the other intake, and that's really, we're well getting to that point now. So more work ahead. Just cleaning up some mess here. I hate leaving the mess for the next time around. It just becomes something that inhibits you to actually getting started on something. Bunch of my casualties of war. I really think cast iron's easier on this discs and such. I think the aluminum kind of tears them up and gets hot. I don't know what it does, but I didn't seem to go through many on the last heads I ported, and yet I'm going through them like left and right on here. Long story short, I put a little chamfer right here in the deck for the carburetor. Actually, this has a 2-inch extension that sits on top of here, and it actually comes back just a tiny bit. The gasket will actually come right over it, so at least there's no hangover. It's done on the other one, I'm doing it on this. I started cleaning up the inside a little bit. As you can see, I've been chopping away, and I've been working at these guys for a couple more hours. They look a little left and right stranded, if that's such a word, but believe it or not, they feel smooth as smooth can be. And I've found, even with painting, that don't necessarily look at it and think there's something wrong with it. Touch it, and if you'll feel it, if there's something there. I find things that I can feel in paint that I can't even see. But long story short, a whole bunch more hours doing this. Now I'm kind of gotten to a certain point. I really want to just kind of clean everything out and give it a whole fresh start again with some new clean sanding discs and such, and give it a whole go over again and see if I can get a little smoother. But I think really the whole thing will polish these up well is when I hit it with a little steel wool, when I give it a nice final shining. It'll really kind of polish them up real nice. And again, I'm competing with this guy over here, which has been around for years. I did clean it up, but that's pretty much the extent of it. I didn't actually do any polishing or porting or anything of that nature. I'm going to go ahead and call it a night and come back and attack this again. Okay, now that I've got the majority of the bulk work done, I always like to come back, after everything's cleaned up, and give it all just a nice big once over once again. So that's what I'm going to do today. And the process, I'm even doing stupid things like there's this, like, I don't know, slag or something right there. It's a big chunk of aluminum. And this is only the bypass for the water pump and the heater core in most motors. And because I use a water pump and it helps keep air out of the motor, I put that in, of course. And it's just a little extra chunk of stuff here, and I'm going ahead and tack that, and then I'll go over the whole thing once again before I take it out and do a final cleaning, and then we can actually try to paint it. Still see things like this. As I said, I'll come back and I'll get this. I don't even know what that is. It looks like aluminum, but I'll knock that off. And you know, it's just after you get everything done and you get it sitting here, it's been blown out last night and all that good stuff, and everything's cleaned up, I get to take a look at it and say, oh, I wish I would have got that. Well, today's the day that I get that. Alright, I'm doing a little work here real quick on my original. Doesn't really need a whole lot. I mean, I'm just trying to make sure all the loose paint's loose and such before I take it out to be cleaned up. And one thing I noticed offhand was I don't have this installed in this. And I do remember I actually had to do that. I think they originally were made for where the thermostat sending unit was probably in the thermostat housing, but not in this case. So I've already gone ahead, whipped out my grinder and knocked off this guy a little bit. I mean, it was up there. It was kind of like at a 45-degree angle. So I knocked that down somewhat, and now I'm going to have to go ahead and drill it out to get this piece put in, because the thermostat sending unit actually threads into it, so it just makes it real nice to be able to put that in, and then it's all ready to go. We're pretty lucky we did a pilot hole, because I'm telling you, that guy's going to come out right there. And if I would have drilled it straight in, let me tell you, I'd have been all up in the slip. And when it comes to cooling, I would have had to take it out and have it fixed, because I don't play around with these cooling ports, because I've had so many problems with them. But I went ahead and got that done and tapped out for a new fitting. And I went ahead also and box sanded all my flat surfaces on both of them. And now it's time to take it outside in the cold and do some scrubbing. Letting the Zepp's heavy duty foaming degreaser do its work. And I'll tell you, that stuff really works. It's sold at Home Depot as a grill cleaner. It's environmentally friendly, it's food safety, you know, and all that good stuff. So I have no problem using it and dissolving grease and WD-40 and aluminum shavings at all. And I've used it rebuilding a motor straight out of a junkyard, and stuff works, like I said, and I have no environmental issues with it at all. Okay, we went ahead and got a couple of the plugs put in the manifold here. Like this guy here, it's just basic steel, and in the boat I give it 10 days and it would be basic rust. So it's going to get painted with long to rest. Got a couple plugs put in here that were for a spread bore carburetor, which of course we're using a spacer, so that's not going to be necessary. Went ahead and taped up some spaces here that I don't want a whole lot of paint to get into, and took my carburetor gasket, and I knew that it doesn't cover everything, so I went ahead and traced it out where it's supposed to be. That way I can actually get paint in these areas, so I'm not doing it trying to get it next to a nice pretty carburetor. Okay, from there I'm going to use a couple of these corks. I have a whole drawer full of corks up there, and if you have a garage and you don't have corks on hand, you're crazy in your head. Look how simple this is. I don't want to get paint in my threads for this bypass. Don't want to get paint in my threads for my new sending unit. Oh, all done. I'm telling you, corks in a garage have a million usages. So you really would do yourself a favor, just go online, buy a bag of assorted corks. They'll sit in a corner. Yeah, months probably. And then one day you'll be like, oh damn, that would work perfect. Now I got another one to do, and then it'll be paint time. It's a little loud with the fans running and such in my heated paint / drying booth, but with just a couple coats of flat black on these guys, they look pretty darn good. Gloss will come up next. I was about to take you all outside and bore you all with some more painting, and then I thought, you know, maybe Carl Weathers can help us out.
Hey, let's make the baby do the magic hand thing.
What you talking about, Carl Weathers?
Come on, baby, do the magic hand thing. I'm out of ideas.
Damn, baby! You know this stuff comes in a can, right? That's great work. Does he have a thing for being over dramatic or what? Let's clear away the debris and see what we got. And maybe find the other one. Okay, we found our second one before the scavengers got to it. Let's get it up on a bench and unwrap it. Get out a little Resolve here to clean up a little bit of my overspray. Made sure I always point it down so there really isn't nothing else. It's just the very bottom. And it's real light. And of course I'm smearing here. So I'm going to put you down and finish this up. And that baby does some good work. A little over dramatic, but really good work. Like all good things, this project has come to an end. At least for now. And they do look really good for 51 years old each, or basically 102 years between them. We went ahead and cleaned up our brass fittings, got those installed. Paint's a little fragile right now, but it's got a few weeks before anything else is going to happen to them, which is perfect, and they will just sit out here and harden up over the next few months, weeks, whatever. Off to the next one. And let's not forget about this little guy that came with that intake. Because on a shelf, we also have one of these. Dun dun dun! Well, this is the second time around on, try it one more time. God, alright, let's do that one more time. One more time. Move my crap. So, we'll add that to the end of the video. So. Damn it, why do I keep doing that? Music tends to be distracting. And one thing I noticed real off where are they? Spread bore, that's it. Let's do it again. Okay, let's do this all over again. We're going to do this again. We got a couple of the... Damn. Oh, done. Don't want to get threads in for my new sender unit. It's a little loud here in my heated painting booth, but with just 2 coats of flat on it, with all the fans and such running in my heated... It's a little loud and such with... It's a little loud and... It's a little loud here in my heated... One more time. It's a little... It's a little loud here in my heated... It's a little loud here with all the fans I'm running and such in my heated... It's a little loud here in my heated paint booth. It's just fucking crazy. Do you believe that? 2.5 minutes I was trying to say that one stupid line.